We'll bring the October 16th Berlin Select Board meeting to order. Open session public meetings are subject to being videotaped. Your image and voice may be recorded. Called to order at 7:03. First thing I want to do is apologize for not being able to make it to Coffee Talk last week. It was a very busy week, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I knew you guys could handle it, though.
Yeah. I thought if there
All
was
right.
an excuse, that was a really good one.
All right, so we've got the approval of minutes from October 2nd. Do I hear a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
They looked great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dee, for your first official minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm glad you agreed. I thought they looked great.
They did.
Yeah. General public comment. It's a lively group here tonight. Then we'll move on to the transfer of funds to a high-yield savings account
Okay.
with our treasurer collector.
I asked Paul if he would join us this evening because the administrative finance team held their first meeting since Linda Barisha joined us as our new assessor. And one of the first things we did, as we had discussed, was go over the FY22 audit. One of the recommendations of that audit was to put funds in high-yield savings accounts because it was showing that a large number of our funds were in very low-yield accounts, which if you look at the the spreadsheet in the packet, you can see. So we were looking at the possibility of moving four or five?
Four.
Sorry, 4 accounts over
Yes.
to Unibank.
You know, I apologize, it is 5.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
No,
I know, we
it
went back
took
and
me a
forth.
It is.
So, looking at moving 5 accounts over to Unibank, which is it's a municipal bank, very well known. They were able to offer us 4.5%, which comes out to almost $13,000 a month in interest that we would be gaining. So I felt this was a timely matter as we're kind of leaving interest on the table every month and wanted to make sure we brought this to your attention.
Okay,
And Paul's here to answer any questions you may have.
do we have any?
Any, like, drawbacks, penalties?
No, not at all. I mean, it's all general fund money, so it can easily just be transferred from one bank. We already have accounts at Unibank for different things. That's where all of our online money goes. Currently, all the online payment money goes there as well. So, no, it's just interest rates took a while to get back up after COVID, and now they're actually at a good spot, and it just seemed in our best interest to pursue. You know, especially where, you know, it's a bank we already, like I said, a bank we already do business with, a bank that's very well regarded in the municipal space, which is different than just regular general banking, which I think is why some of our accounts are more on the lower end as far as interest goes, because they're not being invested necessarily as municipal funds, as just being like, it'd be no different than you going to the bank and opening up a bank account yourself. That's where a lot of our money currently sits, but if we can use our municipal footing to we can get better rates. So I've started that. There's still, you know, there's still work to be done in that respect, but I figured this was a good opportunity. I happened to be speaking to the bank, and they mentioned that they were, you know, they had just a big rate increase. I mean, 4.5% compared. I mean, if you look at that, I mean, we're getting less than 1% on
Yeah,
a
0.05,
vast majority of
0.10.
these.
Yeah.
So it kind of seemed like a no-brainer to me, but I just wanted to, you know, make sure I had everybody's approval before I did any. Because I mean, it is a substantial amount of money. I mean, we're looking at close to $3 million that would be moved. So didn't want to take that, you know, lightly. So
Appreciate it.
Do we have an investment policy?
We do.
Okay.
So that's one of the things
Right.
that we would actually be looking to potentially update.
Correct.
There is some new legislation that's come out about allowing municipalities to further invest their, or divest or diversify their stocks
Yeah.
into Apple and different other
The-
companies that are more stable.
The way it works currently is there's what's called the legal list of investments,
Hmm?
and that's all that you're allowed to invest in outside. Like if you were going to invest your money into the stock market, so to speak, it's very reliable companies, but just the list hasn't been updated in probably 60 years. So they just passed what's called the Prudent Investor Act, where you could invest the same way you would invest your own personal money. You could buy stocks in certain things. Obviously, with different towns, I've seen it handled it different ways. Like if you don't want to invest in certain companies, you don't have to. We could write the investment policy. Like if we were dead set against investing in, I don't know, say Google for some reason, we just didn't want our money there. You could write that into the policy and invest that way. But it gives us more opportunities to just make the most on this money that is just going to be really sitting there until we need it. And obviously they're all there's no high volatile stocks. It's nothing crazy where it's not like a new startup and you're going to lose. It's nothing like that. It's all. There still are some limitations as to what you can invest in, but it is more open. So that's going to be. I was talking to Kristen. It's something I'd be looking, because it would have to go to town meeting to be that piece of it. So maybe put that on the next town meeting warrant as an article to see, because that is something that would have to be approved, voted on by the taxpayers.
I mean, one reason why I ask is that I don't know how select board worthy it is having discussion items on moving money from one bank account to another, especially if we had a policy that framed it. Because
No,
I think
absolutely.
if you have a conversation with a bank and there's something that actually like this, that, as you point out, is pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I'd love to think that there's a policy that lets
Oh,
the
absolutely.
treasurer, tax collector with town administrator approval just move into something that's
Yeah.
slightly better.
Oh yeah, no, I think, I don't want to speak for Kristen, but I think just with the amount of money involved, it seemed like the appropriate
First time
avenue to go.
approval.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yes, no, we do have an investment policy. Like Kristen said, it is something that would just need to be updated, because
Right.
that it's a policy in general that should be updated every couple of years anyways, with just changes in the market and everything, so.
Well, and I wanted to make you aware as well, because there is a potentially controversial aspect of it, in that you're moving from a local
Well,
bank.
I was about to ask about that.
So that's the reason I wanted to speak to the select board about it. I wanted to be very open and transparent about the fact that these funds are currently in Clinton Savings Bank.
Mhm.
So it will be moving funds from a local,
Correct.
in-town servicer to a municipal bank. We are not moving all accounts. We still have a number of accounts
We
that
do.
would stay with Clinton Savings
Mhm.
Bank, but these are the large accounts that would really yield the highest return on investment.
Yes.
There any
Okay.
opportunity to talk to Clinton and be like, kind of like you do when you buy a car?
Yes, no, and I have reached out. Unfortunately,
conversation with Clinton.
they weren't able to match.
Okay.
But that's not to say that they couldn't do more than what they're currently doing. From what I found on my experience, you just basically ask the bank, and they can always figure something out. But with the 4.5% is the highest I've seen in a very long time. So I wanted to jump on it as quickly as possible, because you never know. Tomorrow they could come back and be like, "Oh, it's 3% or whatever." And not that 3% is bad, but it's not 4.5. So I just wanted to be able to jump on that for sure.
And FDIC is $250,000 per account,
That is correct.
and some of these are over that. But I know that there's all kinds of places that just because of your daily cash flow have a hard time keeping all your account balances under $250,000.
And that was one of the things that when I was speaking with our Unibank rep
Right.
about, is these are funds that we're not moving these every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's money that is going to be stationary. It's like right now we still have our payroll and our depository accounts with Clinton. That money's moving constantly.
Yeah.
So that obviously wouldn't be a good account to move, because you're not going to yield any interest on it anyways.
Right.
It's kind of shooting at a moving target at that point. So This is more stationary money that, yes, we will dip into it. I mean, it's stabilization funds, so I mean, we will dip into it at some point, obviously. But I'm not seeing anything in the immediate future where would need to pull anything out, so.
Okay.
I have found, just to add one more thing, unfortunately, a lot of times your local savings banks are just not set up to handle large amounts of municipal funds in this way. And, you know, $13,000 a month works out, if folks don't want to do the math, to almost $155,000 a year that the town would earn on just these 5 accounts.
Very
And like I
good.
said, I'm hoping that this is just the beginning of kind of a, you know, I don't want to move stuff for the sake of moving things, just because that's a pain, and nobody wants to do that. But if you see an opportunity like that, I feel like, you know, it's for the town and for the taxpayers, it seems like the right move, so.
Any other questions?
No,
Okay.
and I imagine this, you want a motion on this, correct?
I would like a vote of the board.
Yep. I would make the motion to authorize to move these funds into the high yield savings account.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thanks for finding that
Awesome.
for us.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's, you know, it's one of the many projects that I'm trying to do in between things. And like I said, luckily, I happen to be speaking to the bank
Yeah.
anyways. So now that, you know, my new assistant actually started last Monday, Tuesday rather. So, you know, she's already off and running. So
Nice.
that'll free me up to do more projects like this and hopefully be able to, you know, to help the town and the taxpayers in a positive way, so.
Yeah, we look forward to you coming back and telling us all the great new things that you're
Absolutely.
able to do over there.
I'm hoping for it, sure.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yep,
you,
thanks.
Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Could we just email that investment policy over at some point? No-
Absolutely.
No hurry.
Yep.
I'm curious about it. I've written investment policies, but probably not in 15 years, so.
Yeah, I don't know if this one is even newer than 15 years,
Yeah,
so
it
it
could
probably
be- it
needs
could
to
be.
be updated.
I don't remember doing one, so it's probably more than
Yeah.
Could be even older than that.
15.
And it could have a lot of really good things in it. A lot of things haven't changed. You know, we don't
Right.
want high-risk stuff then, we don't want high-risk stuff now, you know, sort of
Right.
thing, so. Yep.
Okay. So we're going to move on to the power purchase agreement and lease for highway facility rooftop solar array.
So this is really exciting. I would like to introduce Byron Woodward, who is here from Select, and invite him to come join us, if that's amenable to the
Sure.
board. We have been working for, Byron and I have been working together for a year, but you were working with Margaret before me on the highway solar, rooftop solar array. And I'm pleased to report that the documents are now finalized. The state has approved the project for funding rebates, and we are ready to move forward. So I asked Byron if he would give a brief kind of overview. It's been a while, and answer any questions you may have.
Okay?
Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for your time tonight. I was gonna start the same way. It's been a road, you know, and with any of these solar projects, whether they're huge ground-mounted projects or rooftop projects, you have to go through a common process through that. That includes the utility approval, the state incentives, structural approval, and we've really gone through each of those steps. Legal review at this point is complete. Happy to report that the system is approaching 90 kW, so it's a perfect building for solar, and I think that was obviously contemplated when it was built. But it's a great building for solar. It's going to be generating over 85% of the building's consumption. Savings are going to be averaging probably around $5,000 a year each year for 20 years. And at this point, the next steps are the authorization of 3 documents. One is what's called the power purchase agreement. One is the lease agreement. So the power purchase agreement is the town's commitment to buy the electricity that's generated from the solar panels over the term. The lease agreement enables us to put our assets on town property, and so that's the intent. I guess one of the other big mile markers too was town meeting approval, so that was another piece of it too. So that having been accomplished, tonight, and then the third document is what's called a notice of lease, and it's a support document that just essentially says that you have private property on the building. So tonight, with the select board's approval, there would be the signature on the power purchase agreement and the lease. The notice of lease requires a notary, so each of the signatures needs to be notarized, so that probably would not have to happen tonight, but it's a support document that is usually signed afterwards. So happy to answer any questions that you may have, but that's the high level overview.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Do you have some?
Of course, but you go first.
The contract talks about that we buy the electricity even if it's excess of what the building needs at the time. Does that mean that it just builds up a credit so that on months we produce 120% of the building, it just builds a credit for the months that we only use 80% of it and we just get some of that money back then? Or is that just money lost?
It's not money lost. It would either be, part of it is understanding how the building, it's a brand new building, right? So understanding how the building performs relative to the solar over time. But in either case, the credits would accrue to that specific account, or they could be attributed to other town accounts where they could be monetized.
You have solar at your house too, don't you?
At my previous place I have solar. My current place I haven't put that together yet. But yes.
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm on the right document, but the power purchase agreement, there's all kinds of conditions where you can terminate the contract, but I didn't see any conditions where we could terminate the contract.
There's opportunities, I think it's years 7, 10, and 15 for the town to
buy it out.
Effectively be
Right.
able to buy out the contract.
Right. But, and there are some penalties in there, like if it doesn't produce the amount of electricity that you're saying it's going to produce, there are some.
Then we'll make you whole on that.
They'll
That's
make it
true.
whole on that as well.
There's an early term, the term that you'd be looking for
Right.
would be an early termination provision, and there are early termination.
Right, but there's a penalty to the town for terminating it early.
Well, it's the agreement to buy the power over the term. So if for some reason the town said, okay, we're gonna repurpose this building in year 18 or whatever it is down the line, or put in like massive air handling units, which it wouldn't
Yeah.
because it's a metal roof, but
Right.
just for the
Yeah.
example, then the agreement would be to effectively pay for the energy that you're not buying. So it would be to cover that revenue stream over the term.
And Scott, to your question too, it's one of the things that we looked at. It's actually pretty standard in the industry to have it done that way. I don't want to. I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it, but the towns don't have a lot of power when it comes to that side of the agreement, because you're really entering into a long-term commitment.
Well, and the other challenge too is once the solar is installed there, it's really not like we can just source
Right.
it to another,
Right.
pick it up
Yeah.
and take it somewhere else. So
I plan on voting in favor of this. I mean, so don't take my questions like
No,
I
no,
think
no.
this is a horrible thing. I am a big fan of solar. I get that these contracts tend to be one-sided. I thought there were at least some more provisions in this one that I've seen in others. I think I just want to point out both to make sure that we're aware and people watching are aware, this is not without risk. You know, I think that some of the things in the contract that say if you don't produce, what is it, at least a minimum amount of electricity out of them, that there are some ways, again, as you pointed out, to make us whole. And it does allow us to buy it out at a set dollar amount now. And you're right, I don't remember it's like 5, 7, 12, 15. And there's like 3 or 4 opportunities
Yeah.
for us to buy it out and just, which is sort of the present value. It does say that at the end of the contract, because 20-year-old technology in 20 years from now, we might not want on the roof. And so, it does have it so that you folks would remove them at that point in time.
it's an option.
Yeah.
So either, with the roof that's up there,
Right.
it'll probably be there for a very long
Yep.
time. The panels, we would expect to be producing well past year
Mhm.
25 into year 30. So, but to your point,
And it's a solid roof, and so it's not like we're gonna be replacing the roof in 5 years, hopefully. And, because the roof on it's designed to last a long time. And it is, as town buildings go, a relatively new building, but we are well aware what the electricity has been running for a while. We've complained about the electricity bills at this meeting, and so we're well aware. I think hopefully the electric piece is going down with some of the weatherization stuff that we have planning on putting in, the strip above the garage door.
I thought that was
I
done.
thought
but
that
let
was
me
done,
follow
but
up.
it was such an issue for such a long time. It's,
I think it might be.
that to make sure that it's still, like, again, you're projecting 85% of what the current usage is, not what the usage was when we were leaking, electric heat out the top of the door at the times.
right.
Okay. You can take it away.
You can go.
My only question was, which Scott alluded to, is town council has approved these documents?
Yes.
And
It
they
went
were
back-
okay, and they were okay with the 20 years?
Yeah, there's actually 2 town councils have looked at this.
Okay. Right.
Because it crossed
Right.
town councils.
Right.
And KP Law went back and forth a number of times on it,
Mhm.
so we did push
I
back
remember that.
on a fair amount of the provisions, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Peg.
My question's probably more directed towards you, Kristen. There was some information in one of the documents regarding potential removal of trees with that. So are there any issues if trees have to come down? Is that Concom that we need to pull into the agreement, or is it just because it's not Concom land that we can take them down? I just want to make sure that I don't want to be like, hey, 6 trees have to come down and there's a battle.
So, oh, go ahead.
We have not, in this case,
I would think that the roof is high enough that you'll be fine.
yeah, when shade is a concern, we typically identify it far
Way
enough
ahead.
ahead, and it's one of like the specific criteria for this. The provision that I think you're referencing is if the town elects to put an arboretum like directly behind it, and we've got like large red oak trees or something, that would be the concern. But
Okay.
it's not based on the current
Okay.
situation.
When would construction start-ish?
That would
It
be the
could-
questions.
As soon as we go through permitting,
Okay.
so that's going to be this autumn. Then, technically, we could start to mobilize for construction. We would be coordinating that around the town's use of the building. Would also be coordinating it around we're going into the winter now, so going into the winter, so it would be timed in coordination with the town, but presumably over the next 6 months
Okay.
or sooner.
So would the highway department not be able to operate in that building?
No, they would be able to, and most of the panels are all going to be located from the back of the building, but there is an access or drive around the back of the building, so if we just want to make sure that we're coordinating with
Yeah,
town staff.
okay.
There was also a clause in there that we would provide temporary space for storage, staging, tools, materials. Where is that going to be?
Or,
For the
Oh, for them.
for the materials that he needs, it says that the town will provide temporary space for storage.
okay, gotcha.
It would be in the lot. I mean, there's plenty of room,
Okay.
either behind the building, or it could be in the lot, but typically we would section off a portion of that. We might have a small container that
Okay, so it doesn't need to be covered, or you're bringing in your own container?
if we needed to, would bring in our
Okay.
own container, and it would be temporary. I mean, obviously.
Okay.
I paused because storage is such a hot button issue here. It's a valid question.
Yeah, we would not need to store anything inside the facility.
Yeah,
for
Okay.
we
sure.
don't have a whole lot of storage room, so that's a good question.
All right. And then my final question, by the way, I like to ask a lot of questions. And since I
It's
promised
good.
Chief Shartner I wouldn't ask questions, unfortunately, you're sitting here before him. If we wanted to continue past the contract date, what would be involved?
They're extensions.
Okay.
So as we approach the end of the term,
1 5-year extension is written
Okay.
into the contract. Well, option for 5 more years is
Yeah.
Okay.
written.
And the
Okay.
lifetime of these,
Panels?
panels is, I mean, the warranty lifetime is over 20 years.
Okay.
The reality is we're seeing panels that were installed 30 years ago that are still producing. So as an industry, you know, we're coming up on, you know, we're seeing data from panels that have been installed for the last 30, 35 years. So it's good, but at least warranted for over 20 years.
Okay.
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
Thank
Do I-
you.
do I-
I would make a motion that we approve the 3 documents related to solar on the highway barn.
Agreed, seconded.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing this, thanks for coming, appreciate it.
Thank you. It's exciting after
I
a
was gonna
while
say.
to see this advancing.
It is.
That's great. The
Because Judy Blue
We're
was the
going to
original
hang,
sort of big
we're
proponent
gonna
for
take a
solar on-
current
Yeah, that
power
was probably
bill and
before
hang
the
it up.
building even
And
gets
then the
started.
first one that comes in that shows your
The original
credits,
design
we
included.
will frame
Yeah.
that one
It
as
was
well.
kind of
great.
Mhm.
we brought agreements for authorization or signature tonight.
Yeah.
Administratively, I'm happy to wait until the meeting's over if that works for.
No, we could sign now.
We can sign them.
That's fine.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm a notary, so
Oh, you are a
if you
notary.
would like me to,
Okay.
we could just
Yeah,
get it done
we could-
now if that's okay.
We could be signing as we work on a few other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially with executive session afterwards, that would put you in the hallway while we finished our meeting.
Yeah,
and-
we don't wanna do that.
We don't need to do that.
Okay, so if Kristen's a notary, she can do the notice,
Okay.
please. That's great. Okay.
There, you can start with those and.
We could start with these. Except I think there's like only one signature.
Peg's
if you
gonna
put
be
the plus
reading
one.
them,
I
so-
put purple stickers.
Well, but these are the documents we got in the
Yes, if the other
folder,
documents,
so-
I've already read them, and if all right, then we'll give it a pass. Eric's like, please God, let her sign so she won't ask me questions. I promised you, Chief Shatner, that I would not ask you questions tonight, so.
This one.
No, I am,
Titles are
I do have
correct, they're in
one.
the right order.
I only have one question.
Yes.
What's the dog's name?
Perfect.
Let's start there.
While you're signing, would you like to listen to my town administrator report?
Sure.
Sure.
I was just trying to think, we'll listen to you
No, no,
before.
you have to go before I go anyways, because I don't wanna steal your thunder or mine.
On the agenda, I thought it was,
Thunder you're stealing.
So next up is police.
It's
next
up
up
to you
is police
two.
on the agenda.
It is, I just felt like if you weren't focused on me, it was okay. I was trying to be deferential.
Oh, I got questions, so it doesn't matter if we're signing or not.
I'm paying attention as I sign.
Okay, well then,
I'm paying attention enough to know that I thought that he was next on the agenda.
fair enough, fair enough. So I was just trying to be polite, that's all. But I think you're up then.
Oh, no, you can go. 'cause
Oh, no,
you
you're
didn't
next on the
mention-
agenda.
you didn't mention that.
You're not stealing any thunder from me,
I
feel
was gonna
free.
say, is there thunder to be stolen? Is there?
Now I'm
I've-
confused and
I was
excited all
gonna
at
say,
the
I
same
thought I
time.
read the
Notice to
various
appoint.
reports and.
Oh.
All right, so month of September. So we got our RFR out for our radio system. One
Yes.
company did meet Chief McCollum and I last Friday. I met him at the Coven Road Tower, Chief McCollum to the Montella Road Tower. So positive signs, we've had a lot of interest from a lot of companies. So it should be a pretty competitive bid. So hopefully we don't get sticker shocked like we did on the RFQ. Month of September, we handled 813 calls for service, 11 including criminal charges, 17 motor vehicle crashes, 6 with injuries, 104 motor vehicle stops, 63 citations. Comfort Dog will be in November 5th is the pickup date for Jack's Chocolate Lab. So I did send you up a sample policy to look at. Willing to take any feedback on that or any comments or concerns. This is not set in stone. This was taken from another accredited police department, but we can change things on it if there's any questions or comments on it.
Chief, can you send that to me electronically? I had asked the sergeant for an electronic copy. I actually put it on next Monday because the agenda was so
Okay.
full.
Yeah, okay, all right, all right, that's
Isn't
fine.
the policy in the folder?
Yeah, I think the
Comfort
policy,
Dog?
yeah, I did send it.
Oh, it just didn't make it onto the agenda for
Right, right.
approval.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Oh, that's, okay, that's what
Right,
you
no,
meant.
no, that's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. Accreditation, met with Lexi Poll the other day via Zoom, and also Sergeant Andre was on it with me as well. But at the time I wrote this report, I didn't have a price from Lexi Poll. Currently, we spend around $4,200 a year, $4,200 a year for policy and procedures. This year, we're up around $8,300. Next year, will be around $8,500 for accreditation. But that's also, I need to just be a member of MPAC, which is a Municipal Police Accreditation Council, is another $1,800 on top of that. So, we're gonna be quite a bit over 10,000 just for policy and procedures and association fees for accreditation. And that doesn't count our time. And there will be some probably overtime impacts on this as well for certifications and when they come out to check out our facility. See, Sergeant Goulding started off another year as our school resource officer. In my 28 school starts, this was probably the quietest one that we've had.
Really?
So, minimal bus concerns, traffic concerns, whatnot, so knock on wood, we're doing pretty good. Full-time positions have been filled, waiting testing on 2 of the individuals so we can get them registered for the police academy. Our target date is for November 27th academy.
Okay.
They've been lined up for their psych exam and hopefully physicals this week. We had a problem with MedWorks. They don't have anything open until November. Their audio machine went down, so we had to switch over to AFC, is that what they do, or ACF, the other company we use. So one of the first applicant that is gonna start November 1st, Scott, was able to get in there Saturday, actually. ACO report is attached, and also I forgot to send up the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. Had some street sign requests, there's 3 of them. 2 were for horses, Story Hill Road and at Summer, and also Highland Street. Both of those were approved, I'll pass those down. Both of those were approved by Traffic Safety. I'm sorry, that's the worst one. And then the other one in there is slow signs for Pleasant Street, down by the Northborough Town Line. For the Alden Drive area, we got a request in for them. It's already got inundated with a lot of signs, so we came to the conclusion a slow down sign would be appropriate for that area.
The horse signs are Story Hill Road and Summer Road?
Yeah, there's a horse farm right there on the corner of Summer Road and Soria Hill.
Isn't Summer Road a dead end? Do they have a problem speeding
they'll be
down
on
Summer
Soria
Road?
Hill.
Oh, they'll be on Soria
Yeah,
Hill.
they'll be on
okay.
Soria Hill.
Okay.
Basically, one near you.
Near the
and-
corner.
And then one further north.
A dead end road seemed to be a weird
Yeah.
place, but yes.
Yeah, no, I was the same way
Nice.
at first when I heard it, I'm like, yeah.
I've had to jump off the road a couple times for cars that are
Yeah.
going pretty fast down that hill.
Yeah.
There's one.
Do signs require a motion by the select board?
I'm sorry?
The signs, if we want to put up signs, the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee has already recommended them. Do we need to vote as select board to say them, or?
They ask for your approval.
They ask for our approval, that's fine. As we're signing things, I am fine with the motion to approve all 3 of these signs.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And these were all, like, the attendance at this Traffic Safety Advisory Committee was the biggest attendance you've had, wasn't it?
Second.
Second, okay.
biggest.
Oh, that's right, I remember the one from last year that was, or felt like last year.
I love the little horse.
Yeah. That's why I didn't want to make
For-
copies. You need the originals.
You need the original. Mm-hmm.
To remind folks, the benefits of accreditation, you've talked about some of the costs, but there's definitely benefits to the town.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of the accreditation is that it's a professional standards.
Mhm.
We're going to meet professional standards, and by 2027, every department's going to be probably required.
Right.
The peace officer standard training. So it's not that we're getting ahead of the curve.
Right.
We're in the curve.
In the curve, right.
And by the time we finish, we'll probably June of 2025.
Yeah.
So this isn't something that is, we're quickly getting, I mean, it's a
Right.
methodical process and professionalizing all our standards.
Right.
You know, we're doing it anyways, it's just not
Right.
in writing, we're just, everything we
Yep,
do.
you have to document it all. and-
There's no fundage that can come from the state to help cover any of these costs?
Not yet, not yet, not yet. We did, well, actually, it was for next month's meeting, but we did get a $10,000 grant for body-worn cameras. So,
Nice.
so we're able to purchase enough cameras to give everybody their own camera, plus
Yep.
buy cloud storage as well that we were paying for. So we were able to save at that end. So we were able to get $10,000 of equipment that we do need.
How long do you have to keep that? Keep the,
So it all depends. It all depends on what the criteria. And most of it's 120 days.
oh, okay. So
Um,
it's short.
It's a short thing, but people don't understand. And they're like, "Well, I was in an accident a year ago."
Right.
Sorry, we're not Apple or Google. We
Right.
can't
Yeah.
we can't afford that kind of storage. So yeah, it's usually 120 days on average. But and I think the standard is 60, but we're a little
Oh, nice.
double that because we have a good sized server. So.
And school resource officer, what's the sort of volume of need there, the type of things that he works on there besides just ground police?
So the need, I was talking to Sergeant Goulding today. I know there's some rhetoric about getting a full-time school resource
Yep.
officer. Not gonna justify it for BMS.
Mhm.
If he needs to be there full-time for certain incidents,
Right.
absolutely. But, he's there probably 16 hours a week
Mhm.
on duty. Plus he does a lot of hours on the side on his own, makes a lot of appearances to a lot of events that, you're shocked to see him, but, he just does them.
Mhm.
So, as far as the need of a full-time school resource officer, I mean, we have 240 kids. We're in a unique situation where, when I'm sitting at my desk, I'm a minute from the school.
Mhm.
Other communities, when officers are at the desk, they're 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes from a school.
Mhm.
So our location is perfect. Yeah, we've discussed that. I don't see a need to spend $100,000 to have a police officer in school for 180 days.
I have to say, I think my neighborhood does appreciate you all when Goody or whoever is at the South Street and Brigham
Yeah.
bus stop.
Yeah, we do have a few bus stops that we have to.
And I believe now, I think it's been changed back to within the circle,
Yeah.
which I think makes most sense anyway. I've
Yeah.
always thought that.
Yeah, I didn't realize how much of dynamics go around bus stops.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
I'm like, well, why don't we just do it over here? Well, no.
You want
because
attendance
rules
at a
say-
school committee meeting, you
Yeah.
change a bus stop.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, for the foreseeable future, based on the calls and incidents, I mean,
Yeah,
if Sergeant Goulding's not available, I'm there or another officer's there.
yeah.
Of course, we're fortunate to have the fire department there every day. So,
It's quite an endeavor too. I did some research into this earlier this year. It requires a formal agreement that has to be adopted between the district and the town. That officer has to be solely dedicated. A vehicle has to be purchased that's solely dedicated for that purpose, and they have to have their own office, specialized training, insurance. I think we kind of have the best of both worlds with
We
what
do.
we have.
I think
We
it
do.
actually, it has worked well in the
Yeah.
past, where Boylston takes care of Boylston Elementary, we
Yeah.
take care of Berlin Memorial.
yeah, we've offered
And then
Sergeant
if they
Goulding
need
to
someone-
Tohoto as well.
Yeah, and if
we've
they
offered
need
time to
someone
go
at
up.
Tohoto, then they contact one
Yeah.
or the other of us.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great working relationship
Great.
with Boylston. If they need him, call him, that's fine.
Yeah.
So.
So we're not signing off on the comfort dog policy this week, or are we gonna do it next week?
I mean,
Did you have time to look at it?
Oh, yeah, I read it.
It's
and I-
not on the agenda, that's
Right.
why we
Oh,
weren't
okay.
gonna do it.
Yeah, like I said, it's.
I didn't know it was
If-
coming.
It's not a, November 5th, I mean, it's.
No, I
We
mean, I
have
didn't know
time.
the policy was
Oh,
coming today.
Yeah. I don't know
But-
how this board feels. I'm typically used to with policies, sometimes you want to have a little bit of an opportunity to
Right.
read it, and because it was kind of buried in the report, I just wanted to give it a formal
Yeah. No,
on the
that's-
agenda.
yeah, no,
This will be a
that's absolutely
first
fine.
read.
Right.
I
Yeah,
like
first
your
read, but I think
options
if we had any
about,
quick questions to
If the
talk
officer
about
doesn't
some-
want the dog,
Yeah.
and then like who gets it, who gets it,
Please,
who
if you
gets it.
have any
Me.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's me. I
yeah.
do.
Are we one of a few towns who have a comfort dog, or one of many towns like in the area?
As of
Like
today- as
Clinton,
of
Hudson,
today, many.
Marlboro. Really
Many,
good.
Yeah. Harvard has been posting, they're getting one out of the same litter.
Oh,
So, yeah, so, obviously we'll be training with Harvard as well and,
Yeah.
work with them. So, yeah.
they
it's,
can visit each other.
Yeah, sure.
That's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So like I said, we're in great hands with school resource officer. I'm not
Good.
worried about that.
All right.
We're doing good with that.
Those were my questions.
Okay, I think we're
Yeah.
all set then. Thank you.
Perfect.
Well, does he want to stay here
For,
if we're going to appoint officers, if we
Right.
have any questions?
wanna
oh,
take that just
absolutely, if you
agenda
want to
item?
stay. Or do you want to
take
do that now?
Out of order, Chris?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, him and, here.
Why don't we do that? So we've got a notice of intent to appoint 2 full-time police officers.
So I'm pleased to report that I have had the opportunity to actually meet with both of these candidates. We did have a candidate who did not complete the onboarding process that we had previously given a conditional offer of appointment to. As such, we actually have 2 full-time openings. And both of the gentlemen are quite remarkable individuals. They were interviewed by a smaller panel and then a larger panel for final round interviews, and were both unanimously recommended by the panel. So I'm pleased to recommend Alex Lima. And why is the other name escaping me? I'm really sorry.
Thomas McDonald.
Thomas McDonald, thank you for appointment. They both would have to be academy trained.
Mhm.
But I think they both have a lot of potential and would serve the community well.
And at this point, these aren't conditional appointments. They've made it through all the.
They
they
they still have a couple hurdles to go, minor steps, but we
Yeah.
need to
Okay.
act fast because we
No, no, I
had them
agree. Yep.
in by October 27th to the Municipal
Yep.
Police Training Council.
So it is essentially the way the letters are written, it is written as a conditional appointment, and just the word conditional got left off the.
No, I was just, as I'm
Yeah.
putting together the
To
motion, I want to
clarify.
make sure I'm putting together the right
Yeah.
motion.
So it is
Uh,
conditional upon them obviously passing everything else in the academy and all of that.
Yep. And so with the conditions outlined in their letters, I would make a motion to conditionally appoint both officers.
Agreed, seconded.
Okay. Then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And thank you for
Motion
working
passes.
diligently
I
at
like how
getting
one's a Berlin guy.
these
Yeah.
positions filled.
Yep.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
So are you full now? Did you say you were full before? Do you have any
Full-ish.
Open
Full-ish.
positions?
Yeah, so open full-time positions, but remember, 2 of them aren't going to be on the road
Ready.
till July, August of next year, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there, that's
All
for sure.
right. Good.
I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Davis,
Yeah.
our third
Mhm.
candidate who was appointed,
Yeah.
was it
Yeah,
last
first.
Friday?
Yeah, the first.
First candidate, I'm sorry, the first candidate,
Yeah.
or the other one,
Yeah.
who was the first appointed, and very impressive gentleman. So I think make a great addition to the department.
While they're at the academy, they could still potentially attend, like if there were community events, meetings are
Absolutely.
going on, learn
Yeah.
the roads of the
Yeah.
town, sort of.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities, especially in the wintertime with snow days and whatnot,
Yeah.
and, they're.
Ride-alongs?
They're coming to the station.
Yep,
Yeah, the academy might not be happening, but we're still
Right.
open.
yep.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get the agenda going there.
And we'll move on to the town administrator report.
All right, so as Paul stole my thunder, but that's okay. We welcome Kathy Murphy, our new
All right.
full-time assistant treasurer collector, who started a week ago Tuesday. Welcome. We have received several applications for the building maintenance operator laborer position, and I think we've actually found a workaround for keeping this as a full-time position. So it was a full-time custodian laborer position. I spoke briefly to the FinCom about outsourcing the custodial services to 1870 and the library, which initially we were going to do anyways, and we need a reserve fund transfer no matter what. So rather than hold Fred up until May, where we'd have to transfer the money out of his department or back in, it made sense to do a reserve fund transfer and look to the FY25 budget to actually put that money in. So I will be getting a confirmation from the FinCom on that. We are meeting in 2 days, so I will be seeking a vote from them on that reserve fund transfer. And that will actually give Fred a full-time buildings person who also can function as a laborer, and it will be indoor and outdoor building of the building. So I think that will be very helpful.
Is this an opportunity to do more grounds like in front of the buildings?
Yes.
And I don't know about River Bridge, but that's another area that,
Did they do some work down there? No, I thought they cleaned up the parts
they
that,
might have mowed the weeds around the daffodils, but
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we have to make sure that we're, not on
Right.
private property, but that's something
Exactly.
we can look at.
Yeah. All right, good.
So I'm excited about that.
Mhm.
And there's several good candidates. We'll be holding interviews shortly. We've also posted for the public as well, if anyone's interested, a 25-hour-a-week administrative assessor job opportunity. There's more information on the town's website. And most importantly, under personnel, I have spent a large part of the last 2 weeks doing department head performance appraisals for FY23. I'm going to read what I wrote because I can't possibly say it better. I'm proud to say we have exceptional employees who work hard every day. Let me turn that down a little. That's probably my fault. I think I turned that up at one point. We just have exceptional employees who work hard every day, keeping the town moving forward in a positive direction. They're willing to jump in any situation. They provide me with an infinite amount of guidance and wisdom. I can only be a generalist and know so much. They know the specifics. I genuinely feel that we have a great team here in Berlin. I'm very fortunate and thankful to be a part of it.
I agree with you. I think we do have
I think we have great department
great
heads.
department heads.
Overall, it was a really rewarding process. I added another step to it this year that was getting a list of current projects, future opportunities. If time, money, resources were not an issue, what would you like to be doing? What do you see as needs for staffing, and what do you see as expense funding needs? So I have that actually for every department too, and that's going to help kind of roll into this what we're calling a 5-year outlook, which the staffing plan idea has sort of expanded into a expense and staffing plan. So working on that as well as part of the budget process. We've submitted that Complete Streets grant we've been discussing for pedestrian safety and connectivity within the center of town. That's a $500,000 grant, which the town would match Chapter 90 funds for road paving along Woodward Ave, Central Street, and Carter Street if received. I'm also talking to the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission to assist with us in preparing a Green Communities grant. We had applied for some funding to have them write the grant, and I just found out today we were approved for that funding. So we'd be looking at the spring round for that grant. There is an existing project list, and every year the state has one area or two that they focus on in terms of priority criteria, whether it's lighting, heating, weatherization. So we would look at that. And obviously, as you know, through the facility study, we're looking at energy improvement needs as well. We're getting close to December, believe it or not, which is when we find out if we will receive the $400,000 in community funds from Congresswoman Lori Trahan's office for the phase 3 of the radio project. So that would be to install that third site in town, which would improve our communications up to, was it 96%?
96, 98.
That takes us to, yep. So fingers crossed, everything, it's moved through all the steps in the process so far successfully. And so it just needs to be written into the final budget and passed with the rest of the federal budget. So
Good.
also solar, we just talked about. There will be a senior COVID clinic sponsored by the Town of Berlin and Community Health Connections at Northbrook Villages on the 25th of October from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This is open to all seniors in Berlin. If you want to contact Victoria Flynn Sankaran at 838-2750 by October 20th to sign up or for more information. Many thanks to Victoria for organizing this and the flu clinic we had this past week at Berlin Memorial. FY25 budget in full swing. The immediate needs I've identified so far are largely related to staffing in highway, social services, police, and fire. FinCom, I'm pleased to report, as we all know, only has 3 members on its 5-member board, but they have recently received 2 applications that are now under review. So thanks to everybody who helped get the word out and recruit, much appreciated. And the Capital Planning Committee will be meeting on Thursdays this year to start to review the capital requests that are due at the end of this month.
The process to get those 2 people approved?
So the FinCom actually is able to appoint both of those positions, and notice has been given to the moderator to either make the appointments or the FinCom would make the appointments. So at their Wednesday meeting, presumably they will consider those appointments and take a vote.
And the belief is that both those applicants are actually great people to have.
Yes.
Yes, one
I know of at
attended-
least one of them, but yes.
Yes, you do know at least one of them, yes.
One attended the October 4th meeting,
Okay.
and I understand the second applicant is coming
Okay.
on the 18th.
And the other applicant is well-known throughout the town, has
Okay.
worked on multiple committees and knows their stuff, so.
As I like to say, it's a known entity.
That is correct.
Very excited
Right.
that people have stepped forward and really appreciate it. I know it's a lot of work,
Mhm.
but we try to make it fun, and I try to, take as much work as I can off of the FinCom. So it's not as arduous as it used to be, from what I understand. So,
Absolutely, right? Before, when you and I were on?
Yes, I was going to say.
Oh, my gosh.
and if you heard about those nasty 11 o'clock meetings we had a couple of last year, we don't plan to have those this year.
No.
That was due to a couple of emergency situations that
Right.
came up at the last minute. So.
And I think some of the applicants that you have will actually help,
Mhm.
even if we ended up in a similar situation, have some ability to speak multiple of those sort of languages of those various departments.
Excellent. I need all the help I can get. I got to do something really neat. The food pantry actually asked me, they had, every year they host graduating nursing students from Fitchburg State. And they talk to them about the food pantry, needs in Berlin. Victoria speaks to them about social services and some of the challenges of casework alongside with, health work. And they asked if I would talk about the homeless migrant family issue and what local government's response is. So did a lot of homework and got some information, and it was actually fascinating for me too. And I used the housing study for some great demographic information as part of it. So that survey is already being used. The addendum, we did have to do an addendum to the radio tower equipment installation. I received 18 questions, mostly from one company. So we got those out today, and the responses are due on Wednesday. The Berlin Memorial School lease, I actually have it over with town council, because when I opened it, it had so many red line version changes in it, I had to go through the whole thing, which is what took me the time. So I'm having our legal counsel do a quick review of it, and then I will be sending it over to the schools. So I have gone through it.
Can you
which
send
is
me a
great.
copy too, or
I
us a
most
copy?
certainly can. I was waiting until I got town
Or-
council's quick look at it.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
want it?
fine.
Or I can send it now if you want.
I think I have that copy.
With all the crazy
Yes.
changes on it. I
So-
couldn't read it very well, so it took me a while to go through
Right.
it. But
So whenever town council's through,
Yep.
maybe the 3 of us would like
I
to
would
see
be
it.
happy to send that over. Okay. And we've actually done something else that's kind of neat. At the recommendation also of Victoria, we've contracted with a company called Language Link that provides phone translation services on an as-needed basis for 59 cents a minute. It's already been used by the fire department at the scene of, I believe, some type of accident.
Yes, yep.
And basically you pick up the phone and you get somebody immediately that speaks, someone who speaks one of 240 languages.
Wow.
And so it cost us $100 a year to join this, and I have to say, for accident reports, instead of using Google Translate or making sure that for accuracy purposes,
Right.
for legal reasons and liability, we now have that ability. So excited that Victoria recommended that and that it's already in use.
Right, Google Translate is great when you're on vacation somewhere, but not good for crisis and legal related issues, where a small mistranslation can cause serious problems.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the issues we have on the fire side with EMS is that we can't use a translator that is not either on our department or a service we use.
Right.
Because we can't guarantee they're actually translating what we're saying
Yep.
to the patient in a way that, would give them consent for our treatment or to sign off. So,
Yep.
yeah, this has been huge.
Right,
Good.
and there have been a few members of the department that have generously volunteered their sort of translation services, but translation is actually something you have to be trained in. Just because you speak another language does not mean that you know how to translate either. There's a whole art form and process to it, so. Let's see, where was I? Municipal facilities study, we met with the consulting firm, and we are working to complete building survey questionnaires in advance of the surveys that are starting this week and will go through November. I met with a representative from a nationwide health insurance and benefits provider known as Brown & Brown. They are breaking into the Massachusetts municipal market, but they serve, I believe he said they serve 900 municipalities nationwide. They also are the providers for Tesla and Amazon. So gonna just kind of see what they might be able to do for us. And I guess there's a couple neat things in here. Governor Healy's new director of rural affairs, Ann Goby, who used to be a teacher at my high school, who is now went on to be a rep, then a senator, now working for the governor, which is exciting, has set up a call every Thursday at 9:30 for a rural development check-in. And people had a lot to say, but she kept it short. I think we only ran 3 or 4 minutes over because I had to meet with Chris to set the agenda. And we talked about the municipal buildings funding program, additional funding for schools, especially special education, and grant opportunities. And she encouraged there was, I want to say almost 50 town administrators on the call. It was
Wow.
really incredible from all over the state.
I could have waited, for the agenda,
Well,
just so you know.
Ann was done, so we were okay. And then I had a great conversation with the Energy Committee Chair Tim Wysocki. We discussed the adder funds, that some of which can go to the energy audit portion of the facility study, green communities, power purchase agreement, and lots of topics in town. So I'm sure you have questions, so I'll stop.
Go ahead. I think I already
I
asked
got most of
mine.
mine at Coffee Talk, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I asked about the building maintenance laborer, so I am good.
You might be getting off easy.
You didn't get me a coffee talk, Peg?
I was waiting. You know what? I beat up on those two guys, so
Oh,
you
now
know
it's
what?
my turn. Hey, you asked me some questions.
I did ask you some questions.
I think we deferred some to you too.
You did.
Yeah, you did.
That's all right. I can take
Yeah.
the heat.
Deferred or deflected?
Yeah, not it. So on the reports for the inspections.
Yes.
For that, old fire station was done, former rescue squad building. Fred doesn't have a key, so who's completing that? Will it be fire?
Oh, well, two different things, right? So the fire's on that access to that folder. And you have someone from Rescue Squad meeting the surveyor
Yeah, I
on
believe
the
John's meeting
18th.
him. Yep.
Yes, he is at noon.
Yep.
So
But are they gonna be able to fill out the report for them
I
ahead
think
of time?
Yeah, they were going to
The
take a look
facilities
at that survey
I
as
know,
well,
but
and I
it's-
let Fred take a crack at it, but I also put you on it. So if you could just take a look
I'll
over
look
the
at
fire
tomorrow to
safety
get it
part.
filled out.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
And then also this week, new highway barn and old highway barn are due up. So is Fred aware that he has to do those as well? Or is there any help that we can give him between assessors,
Yeah.
planning people? I don't know. There's
I
got to be
will-
other people in town who have all that information that they're looking for.
A lot of it comes from the property record card, so I can gather a lot of it. My goal was to do those tomorrow morning
Okay.
and get those in the folder so that Fred could fill out the rest.
Cool. All right. And just as a reminder, Janet's not part of capital planning, so I don't know if you want to reach out to Anna.
I have, so the FinCom voted to have oh, now I can't remember if it was Mary or Julie sit on Capital. Julie? Thank you.
Okay.
But Janet is still welcome to be part of the facility study, of course.
Yeah, she does. She does. She wants to be at the end to take a look at it.
Good.
All right. So correspondence, the Blinky sign usage. I know there was some email that had come in with that. Not putting it on your list at all. I want to say that out loud. But will there be some type of communication to go out to people in town, to have available on town on the types of messages that can go on the Blinky sign? Because I don't want you told me that I can't. Now there's one up there. How come I can't? How come
Well, we
this
have
one
a
can't?
policy that we're
I think we
going
do.
to go by. If they should call and ask, then they would be told
I'm
yes or
working on
no.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
But they usually come in via email, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
so
either
we
way.
need to make that a little bit more out there for people to realize that it's there for that.
Yep, I'm working on a policy on that, and I've had a conversation with Fred. So hopefully we should all
Okay.
be on the same page on that, but
Mhm.
I will get the policy before the select board soon.
Okay.
It was kind of nice having Jay come and speak with us that one day, too.
Oh,
Because I think
yes.
that alignment with planning board and permission to use the signs that they're talking about getting, one for the town, one for the center town, and one for the school, and what can you put on it? And so that would be very helpful, I think, to look at for our policy.
And they were limiting those to municipal use as well.
Yeah.
All right.
School and
Right.
municipal.
But when you drive through Hudson, you can see that theirs is also used for other things. And
Yes.
So I would be interested, maybe they have a policy, because I don't think I've seen anything that's controversial on their signs, but it
Mm-mm.
clearly is more than just municipal stuff that goes up there every now and then. Or it could
And
be
we can
things that are
talk
municipal
about it.
sponsored, and I just don't know.
Yeah, my concern is typically you're not supposed to use public resources
yep.
for private purposes, even if it's a nonprofit.
Yep.
I mean, how strict we want to be with that, we can discuss it.
Yep.
I think the other issue is you're opening the floodgates, because the other issue is the whole separation of quote-unquote church and state, and, you know, what events are religious events versus public events, and you get really into something that could potentially be offensive to somebody or not offensive, and it's kind of best to
Right.
just stick to municipal
Right.
events.
You can't be a good citizen because someone will take advantage of it and get you in trouble for it.
Unfortunately, people are very apt to be critical of things
Yep.
nowadays.
Well, even the wording that had gone up a while ago, you know, prayers and thoughts, and that just,
Yeah.
the comments. On the agenda, I noticed that old business was removed, but we
Yes.
always seem to have a lot of old business.
We only removed it on weeks when we didn't have any old business.
Right.
But there's always old business, like the Boston Cane Award, you know.
But not for tonight's meeting.
Not for tonight's meeting, or I think the last week we had a meeting.
Right, I just took it off for this week because we didn't have any old business. It's still on the shell of the agenda for when
Yeah.
we have it going forward.
So we don't have any update on any of those that will, maybe for next agenda?
We just took a vote on the next person to send a letter to for
Yes.
Boston Cane.
Yes, I understand that, but like next steps, because if you read on Facebook, the family has no idea what's going on.
I don't read
Oh,
Facebook
all right.
unless somebody points it out that I should
Yeah.
read it.
So there was discussion on that, and the question was, I don't know what to do next, so that's why I'm saying that sometimes we have old business that we either wait on or don't talk about, but yet it pops up in another.
Well, sometimes
Right, but
it's
if we don't
not a
let
good
it-
idea to use Facebook as a
No, but I'm
way
saying
to
like, but
pick
this.
your agenda item.
I understand that, but this specific one was the Boston Cane Award where the letter went out. But my question is, and though it's not on the agenda and I know we can't talk about it, so maybe we talk about it next week, what are the next steps? Because the family is patiently waiting for next steps.
So under my TA report.
Why
I
didn't you
can-
just let her know and she could call them, or have Victoria call them?
Because I want to do it in an open session. I don't want to do, just phone
Well,
calls.
then
It's-
they'll have to wait, because
All
this
right.
is your open session.
All right, then, yeah, I just don't want to
That
call
kind of
Kristen
thing
about.
is okay to call Kristen
That's
about.
day to day.
It's day to day.
To me, no.
Yeah.
I'd rather bring it up.
Okay.
Here.
Well, since we're
Okay.
talking about it, I have a wrong phone number. So I've been trying to get the corrected phone number. So I tried to call today and I got a man who I had the wrong number for. So that's
right.
what happened.
Well, either that
And
or-
it was a really crazy week last week.
Just let them know where to call.
All right.
Call the selectman's office.
I know, but I would just, for me personally, I would rather prefer to bring these things at an open session rather than, hey.
No, I'm saying just let them know on Facebook that they can call the selectman's office rather than waiting for us to call them.
Okay. All right. So old business will come back when there is old business.
Yes.
All right. All right, I guess I'll defer that and I'll ask that to go on the agenda next week too.
You have something you want on the agenda?
I have two things, but I'll wait till the end. And then, well, then this third one can wait too, because there was a letter that came in about a one-day liquor license, but while we're talking about the policy, we'll just roll that in.
Yeah, that just came at
Right.
5:30 tonight.
Yep. All right, all right, so that one's done. Hold please. Hybrid, you said there was a delay in your report. There was a delay on getting the Chromebooks?
Yep. So we got laptops. Originally, we needed 2 laptops for the rooms. It turned out those laptops actually need to be in the studio, and what we need for the rooms are 2 basic Chromebooks so that they can open Zoom on them. That's the only thing that they need to do. So that's what we're in the process of getting. And I've reached out to CM Geeks to just get cheap Chromebooks and have them get them on the network with all the security. The training has happened and we're working on instructions for boards and committees.
Who's
I would be careful about cheap Chromebooks.
Mhm.
Not all
Okay.
Chromebooks have the capacity to do multiple-person Zoom meetings.
Okay, no, that's
And
good
so just
to know.
make sure they have enough video capacity, and if you want to talk to me outside of the meeting,
Oh,
as
thank
someone
you.
who supervises 1,200 Chromebooks and have bought some cheap ones that turned out that they're great for all kinds of things but Zoom meetings.
Oh, no, that's really good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I wondered about that, actually.
Yeah.
So who took the training, or who's trained?
So Brittany has been fully trained, and we're going to have a sub-training with Dee and I right now, shortly for right now. And then we would be able to have written instructions to be given out to boards and committees, and then we would be able to train anybody else who needs to be trained.
Okay. So perhaps, as I was putting down all of Finance Committee's meetings in my calendar, I was wondering if they would go hybrid at some point.
We may very well be able to do that. I'll be at them, so I can certainly run them.
Because I have ZBA the same night
Oh,
sometimes too.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We'll have to move their room because they like to meet in the board and committee room that doesn't have the cameras. So we
Ah.
have to move them across the hall, but that probably
Oh,
could
but if
work.
they're, well, no, that'll work. That'll work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be done in here, obviously.
It's not here. It's all the equipment's installed except for the 2 cameras. It's in room 218, which is the room conservation uses, and 227, which is the large meeting room down at the end of the hallway on the right.
And one of the biggest concerns was the fact that they wanted to be able to set timers to put cameras on and off, and that's not happening, correct?
There is a green light that is always on the cameras. It is a power light. All it shows is that there are power to the camera. So basically, that would all be controlled externally remotely by Brittany when there is a meeting.
But not on timers.
No, not on timers.
Okay.
So she would record the meeting, and then she always views it and cuts it before anything goes online. So you have that safeguard as well.
Okay. There was just a concern about executive session might, mistakenly be being recorded when you shouldn't be.
So when we talked about that, so the safest thing to do for executive session is to move to a different room. If you want to stay in that room, the best thing to do is to notify cable that you're having executive session, especially if it's in the middle of a meeting, because if it's at the beginning or an end, Brittany's always looking at the agendas, and it will get caught if it falls somewhere in the middle of a meeting. It's best to always notify cable access, and we were writing that into the instructions.
And isn't there the ability, though, with Mass General Law, to be able to do an executive session if you need it during the middle of a meeting, even if it's not on the agenda?
You can. The problem is, some meetings go for hours, and unless
Yeah.
we want to pay Brittany, millions of dollars, she can't watch the entire.
No, because I
meeting.
thought the whole thing that we talked about was, having somebody there to press the button and then press the button to turn it off. Wasn't that what we were concerned about?
Mm-hmm.
So that it wasn't like on a timer,
Yeah, it's not on a timer, it is controlled remotely.
remotely, like from another room, from,
Yeah, or from, it could be from home, from Brittany's computer.
okay.
So, but it would all be reviewed before it goes up online at the
Okay.
beginning and the end, so if anything cuts there. But just to be safe, you can, if you're nervous about it, you can always go in another room and you can notify cable when you have executive session. It's not something that happens all that often, so.
Okay. I think I was just trying to solve the problem or see if the problem was solved that we were concerned about,
Okay,
before you came on board.
gotcha.
Okay,
Yeah, so no timers have been installed that I'm aware of.
okay. All righty,
I'm done for now.
okay. Then we'll move on to the use of public buildings policy.
Okay, so in your folder, you have a draft use of public buildings policy. As part of this, I've also spoken with Sandra, and I would like to make a recommendation that if the board is comfortable adopting this policy with or without revisions, that we open 1870 Town Hall up to other nonprofits that are not just municipal groups. And at no charge, basically, because I find that building is probably not as used as much as it could be. We need space for meetings, and in some instances, that space is more appropriate for certain needs than others. Understanding that if somebody is holding a wedding or a whatever, that would take priority, because that would be somebody who pays, but I think an important part of this conversation is to understand that no building in town is expected to be self-sufficient, and 1870 is really never going to be. There's always going to be costs for electric, utilities, etc. I would rather see the building used with $1 million elevator that's in there, especially when we have some space concerns, than just sitting there unused.
Who has seen this policy? Is it just us?
Mhm.
So my concern in here about it not being distributed a little bit wider to either department heads or committees is that there's at least two items in here that talks about the user will pay for the repair, trash will be, if it's not removed, $25 charge to the user. I just want to be sure that other groups or committees that use other buildings are aware of this ahead of time. Because to me, it's kind of like, hey, this is the first time you've seen it. Yeah, it's going to be the first time you read it. And oh, by the way, you owe us $25.
Well, no, it would be distributed once it's approved by the select board, because it's up to the select board to decide if they want to charge for any of these items. This is just a recommendation.
Let me suggest that we take time this week to think about it and bring it back to next. Is that gonna be a problem? If we bring it back to,
No, I think opening up 1870, if that's something you're willing to do, would be very helpful.
So is this just for 1870?
Nope.
No, I
This
didn't
would be
think
for
so.
all town buildings, but.
Because
as-
we do have a policy used, I think, for 1870.
Mhm. And right now,
And how different
everybody
is it?
has to pay unless you're a municipal group.
Okay. So this would really,
Override it.
no, this would really just be for those that are Berlin groups.
For me, they're two separate issues. The use of the building and the charging of the building are two separate policies that I'd love to have, even tonight, two separate conversations. I'd like not to have them sort of merged together into one.
Okay.
So on building use, this would be, again, the policy for all buildings, including 1870 Town Hall. It would replace the current building use policies of 1870 Town Hall.
So I actually wasn't aware that they had a building use policy in
Mhm.
1870, so I need to
Yeah.
look at that.
Okay.
So I can
Okay.
do that.
Yeah,
Why don't
because
we-
I'd like to
yeah.
make sure they're at least in
Yep.
sync with each other.
Oh, sure.
Because I believe that, I would love to have one policy for all use of all town buildings and not
If we-
have.
Yeah, it'd be
separate ones.
easier if we could do it for all buildings, but if we can't,
Right.
because it would be different probably for,
There
Well,
may be
I-
some specifics that
yeah.
Well, I think the only difference
Maybe.
might be the fees charged could be different for 1870 Town Hall than here.
I don't-
But
I
I
generally
don't think
don't-
use is any different.
I don't think that we generally charge fees for this building, because
That-
it's mostly
Right.
people that, you know.
Right, that's what I said, that there might be a fee usage difference between them, but I think the usage, if you leave trash here or leave
Yeah,
trash
yeah,
in
yeah.
1870 Town Hall, or
That's
trash
true.
at, I don't know, the old highway barn, if we rented that out, you
Right.
know, I think it would all be the same.
Right. I mean, the
Um,
purpose of this is, as I said up front, is really just to protect the assets
Yeah.
themselves. It's not to make things very specific. It's basically to respect the building and make sure that
Mhm.
if there's damage or trash, that that's addressed.
So maybe it's
Mhm.
one policy for um, um, people who are, you know, private parties. Or, I don't know what the description
I
would be.
think this would apply to all buildings. I'll have to
Oh,
look at
yeah, yeah, yeah.
1870, and, you know, we can even put in here, buildings may also have additional policies that could apply.
Okay, there you go.
So if FinCom doesn't pick up after themselves, we're gonna charge them $25?
Well, we can't charge ourselves,
Well, that's, you know, building use
but we
policy.
can tell them they
It-
can't use
it-
the room.
Right.
We're gonna have a wild party.
Oh, it's a wild crew.
Well, there's some unintended times, like, I think we cleaned up after ourselves, but when Carl Wickstrom had his last Agriculture Commission meeting, someone brought in a cake, there was, you know, other stuff, I think we cleaned up well after it, but there's a chance we didn't, or there's an event like that that could end up being like that, but.
I don't think the expectation is spotlessness. I think
Right.
it's, please
Yeah.
don't leave your trash all over the place.
Right.
Or break
Eh,
the furniture.
Yeah.
It could also just be like, if you notice something broken in the room, here's the email address you send it, because sometimes you don't break it yourself, but you walk into the room and you go to open a window and the latch is not quite working, and the sooner we know about it, or Fred knows about it, the sooner it can get fixed, too.
Yeah.
Yep,
Um,
that's why if for any damage to the building or property, I put in an address and a phone number in there.
For waiving the fee for nonprofits, my only hesitation, I can't imagine this is ultimately a problem, but nonprofits can really vary pretty substantially in size.
they can.
You know, there are some nonprofits that like have a $500 a year budget and are all run on volunteers, and I believe, you know, Partners Health and Harvard are nonprofits.
I meant
and
to say
they're
town-
billion-dollar
Yeah.
companies that could afford to pay for rental stuff, and so.
I meant to say town nonprofits, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like Lions Club, Auxiliary Women, right now,
Okay,
they
yeah.
can't meet at 1870
Right.
because they would be charged under the current
Yeah.
policy.
So town-based nonprofits, which is, you know,
Correct.
historical, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Women's Auxiliary, Lions Club.
Right.
Those I would definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So town, I'm sorry, I should have been more specific,
Yeah.
yeah, town nonprofits. So you can, yeah. town-based.
And that would include both town churches then too,
Yep,
which I'm fine with, because it's.
sure.
So is that a good idea if we want
I'm in favor of it. I don't see that sort of in the document in front of us, but I'm generally in favor of town nonprofits being able to use it for.
to, no, I was just saying if you wanted to come up with some more suggestions and we talk about it again
Yeah.
at the next meeting. Is that gonna
Right.
hold anything up, Kristen?
I mean, they are two issues, Scott, and
Right.
you're absolutely right to that point. I think that, they tie together and they don't.
Yep.
So they sort of, in my mind, wove together into one issue. It would be great if the board would be willing to take a vote on the opening up 1870 to town based nonprofits tonight, and then we could think more about the policy if that works for you, and put the
I
policy
mean, I wouldn't
on
even be
10-12.
adverse if you wanted to share, this is a draft, but this has not been approved,
Yep,
you know, if that should be the case.
okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think your draft is at least in my standpoint, at least 90% right, and we
Yeah.
might tweak a few things here and there. Might be some better wording choices somewhere, but as a whole, it is in the right vein.
Yes.
And I've not heard much from you, but I have no problem doing a motion tonight, opening up 1870 Town Hall, doing a fee waiver for town-based nonprofits along the lines of the list we've said out loud.
And then I could work on a revised 1870 policy, and we could figure out how this all fits together and bring it back.
Okay. Say, I mean, it's sort of in process, the policy part of this.
Yep.
Yeah. So did you make that motion, Scott?
Yeah, I think I make a motion that we do a blanket fee waiver for town-based nonprofits along the line of the list that I mentioned already,
Great.
For use of 1870.
for use of 1870, yep.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All
Okay,
right.
let's go.
And we'll put that on for, it's next week, correct?
Yep.
Next Monday.
Okay. All right. Sale of alcohol on town-owned property policy.
I had some fun with this one, and this morphed a little bit too. I realized that in looking through our application and our policies for what are called one-day special licenses, there was no policy. So rather than write a policy for just alcohol on town-owned property one-day licenses and then another one for one-day licenses, I rolled them together into one policy with a section on town-owned property. And I did a lot of research, spoke with our insurance company. The main thing you need to have is what's called a $1 million special event policy that the group who is hosting the event would obtain. And that would name the town as additionally insured and will cover us in case of any event. You know, there is risk. Town council did echo that, but they said a lot of towns are moving in this direction. So they would follow the insurer's recommendation.
And so basically so town council is aware of this policy that,
I spoke with town council that, yes, and she
Okay.
actually gave me a couple sample policies to use in drafting this. So,
Okay.
but they were all very simple and straightforward. I didn't want to spend, town council
2
money
weeks on it.
drafting it. I actually drafted it. I stole. This is what we do. We beg, borrow, and steal in this business. So.
Does that mean the one-day permits that we've been issuing this summer, there wasn't any sort of fees for?
No, there were fees. The fee was on the application. There just wasn't a policy that went along with it. Typically, you have a policy for special one-day licenses. Also, this was new to me. After doing research with the ABCC, you can issue an all-alcohol one-day license to nonprofits, which I did not know. That is at the discretion of the board. Someone may ask
So-
at some point, so it's good to know.
And so that $40 a day is the same prices that we're charging right now?
Correct.
That's not a change in that?
Nope, no change there. I took basically the limited information that was on the application and then just expanded it.
Right, and so except for needing to have the insurance, all the data that you've asked for under that A through F or G is sort of already on the application. So we're not asking applicants for much more information than they're already providing us when they apply.
It doesn't seem that we actually outlined the specifics of what should be on the application, which is part of the reason I did flesh this out.
Okay.
Because you really need to make sure that you have a sketch. Some of these items were on there, but some weren't. Making sure that you have that floor plan and diagram, as well as the biggest thing is you can't buy alcohol from a package store. You have to buy it from an ABCC approved vendor. And I think those two things, and you also have to make sure it's in a separate if it's outdoors, it has to be in a roped off area, not a roped off area. You have to define the area in which it will be served. So, and I think that it is just helpful to have that laid out.
And this is for selling of alcohol, and so if I just give away alcohol, I don't need this?
You can't give away alcohol. And
So if I'm having a wedding at the 1870 Town Hall and I'm renting the building, I cannot have any alcohol.
Oh, you're
there.
talking about, okay. I have to look at the 1870 policy. So this is for selling.
Right, this is for selling, not for giving away.
Correct. I don't know what the policy is for if you are attending an event and you're serving it at the wedding.
I just think, we're talking about 1870 Town Hall and how we
Right.
can improve revenue stuff, and if you're doing a wedding reception, many people like having some alcohol at wedding receptions, and
Absolutely. So now that I know that there is that, I need to talk to Sandra and find out what
Yeah,
her
you can
policy
actually like
is.
hire companies to come in and pay the company to do it, like
Right.
Deacons and Hudson, they do events at my farm through corporate events.
Mhm.
They'll come in, they give it away, but
Right.
there's a whole separate insurance policy
Yep.
that I get for them to come onto my property.
Mhm.
So,
And I would not slow this up for that sort of answer, but again, as we're looking at trying to see what we can maximize revenue in 1870 Town Hall,
Sure.
I think if you tell people you can't possibly have alcohol at your wedding reception, might limit the number of people who do wedding receptions there.
I think we talked
A
about.
private event versus a public
Yeah, I
event
know.
are
Yep,
also
yep, yep,
different
yep,
too. Yeah.
so I just think on town property, whoever's serving it has to also be tip certified.
Yeah,
Correct, that's in
yeah.
here too.
So you made informed that, we need to obviously pull in, Chief Shartner with that. But what about if I'm holding it outside and I'm putting up a tent? Does that mean that I need to contact the building inspector for him to come? But that doesn't say that in there.
Right,
Was that
because
at your house?
whenever someone applies.
No, on town property. So
Oh,
let's
well, You
say,
need a permit for a tent anyways.
Right, whenever
All right.
someone applies for a one-day
Right.
license, we send it out to all of the department
Okay.
heads to ask if there are any other permits required.
all right. Does that need to be stated in here, though? Because the way that I'm reading this, it just says that I need to send it to the police.
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing is that you don't want it to be like a backyard party in the 1870.
Right.
You don't want them going to a, liquor outlet and buying unlimited drinks.
Mhm.
Having a bin, everybody just grabs them out.
Mhm.
I can definitely put a sentence in after that that says,
other
other
applicable
permits may be required
Mhm.
on a case-by-case basis.
Do you need to also put in, Eric, what your fee is or what you charge? If an officer of yours is needed, it's a minimum of 4 hours? So does that need to be stated in there? I mean, I'm just saying, because if I'm doing this, as
There's
the non.
probably a lot of ifs.
Well, I know that, but if I'm the nonprofit and I'm thinking, oh, okay, I just have to pay my $40, and then all of a sudden I go to Eric and he says, oh, well, you need an officer and it's minimum of 4 hours for blah money, that may be money that I didn't plan on,
So what I could do is say that they'd be responsible for arranging and paying for a police detail for the event, and then you could tell them what those parameters are depending on the length of their event.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like a lot of these things that I don't see, they need a police detail. As long as they have a tip certified company, like, I mean, I'm not gonna advocate for Bacon's, but I've used them and they have professional bartenders that do it, and, obviously they still have the same obligation under law not to serve people that are incapacitated
Right.
or under the influence, to curb any issues that we may have.
So where this is calling for a 30-day notification, the email that came in tonight request, in regard to an October 28th request, is that a no for them, or is it timing, or?
I would
Just-
say we can always try, but you have to understand that, sometimes we only meet twice a month, and we're not
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
hold a meeting just for someone who gets an application in 5 days before an event. So that would provide a good guideline, and then we could all just take it on a case-by-case basis. If it comes in and we're meeting, great, and we
Yeah.
can get it done in time, sure.
Okay.
Right, I think it sets the expectation for people doing out applying for it, that they know that if we can do it in less than 30, maybe we can pull it off, but that doesn't,
That doesn't
Right.
guarantee that,
if you write us today and ask for something for the 21st, which is 5 days from now,
What's the
the
sign
odds
that
that we can
your
pull it off.
building inspector used to have in
Oh.
Leicester?
Right.
My Leicester building inspector had a sign at his door that said, poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. But I have to say, part of what brought that particular piece up is the Chamber of Commerce in Marlborough was wanting to do an event at the Solomon Pond Mall that you probably
Right.
saw that email. It actually takes 2 weeks to get the food permit process done through Neshoba Valley Regional Boards of Health. They did not have enough time, so they had to move it to the Marlborough side of the mall. And I don't like that, and I encourage them to please apply for future events, just give us a little more time. And he was very nice about it, but, you know, people just need that expectation laid out there that it's gonna take us a
Right.
bit of time.
And, you know, it just requires you to plan ahead, I guess.
Right.
Right.
Well, and having it in the policy when you send it out also like lets them know you're not making up these sort of dates and times.
Right, right. It's because you're having a bad day, you tell them they need 30 days. It goes out to everybody.
So someone will get back to the person who wrote in regarding the one-day liquor license inquiry?
Yep. So I actually sent it already over to Sandra, ironically, and said, do you have a
Yeah.
policy on, which I did now know there is one, or I said, what's your policy on alcohol at 1870? Because I first need to know what
Right.
that is, and then we can bring it to the board Monday night if
I'm
possible.
pretty sure they don't have one, because we talked about the fact that if somebody wanted to have a wedding reception,
Right.
they would have to check with the selectman's office to get a one-day
Right.
liquor license.
Right, so I just needed to check with Sandra to make sure she is aware of the event and all of the specifics.
Yeah.
So once I hear back from her, I can get back to.
It'd also be funny for us to grant a one-day permit for an event that Sandra doesn't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was like, oh, Sandra's not on here.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what happened to H. Was H in here? Was tip certification for all servers required? And somehow it's not in here.
It's
So
on mine.
I need to, it is?
Yeah.
Where did I miss it?
And there you are, like I just saw your little name.
Oh, yeah, because I just put it back in because it was
Okay.
gone.
Yeah.
So now it's back in. But
Yeah.
I would ask that
Yeah.
we put that in the
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I deleted it somehow by
So do you-
accident.
Do you want this approved this evening?
Well, if we want to have the alcohol festival this weekend on, I mean, it's up to you all, because I understand it's a little bit rushed. I would love to accommodate the fall festival if we could. And they've already let me know that they have that special event insurance, which was my main
Mhm.
concern. So
Okay.
if you're comfortable with the policy, we could go forward, or you could approve that event with the understanding that we have a policy pending, however you'd like to do it.
Well, I mean, policies are also ever changing.
Mhm.
So if we feel as though we need to edit any portion of this, we could always do that,
We can
even
always
though
go
we've
back.
approved it tonight.
We can always go back and change
Right.
anything in it. So I did add in, just to note the changes, I added in the tip certification that somehow came out. I added in applicant shall agree to and be responsible for arranging and paying for a police detail. And I added in other permits may be required on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
And then what is the one-day event that we're looking at?
The Fall Festival on South Commons, they wanted to bring in a alcohol provider.
Is this recreation?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
I'm looking for the permit, the request.
Can you
I'm not
put in a
sure
footer on
if
this,
I
just
got
with
it.
like approved date or something, so
Or
that we
approving a
don't get
permit request we
confused
don't
on,
have.
no,
oh, look,
she
this
got
one's
it,
the most
but
recent
I
one,
don't
oh, this one's
think
the most
everybody
recent one.
Copied on it.
Dates.
Is that what you're?
Right. I don't know if I want, my desire to approve something that I've not seen, but maybe I missed something.
It was on the last meeting agenda.
okay.
Oh, so yeah,
Can continue, okay.
it may have been in.
It would have been old business.
Well, the policy is a new business.
I know,
though.
policy is definitely new business.
Yeah.
October 2nd, at 5:58, Scott, is when they started circulating.
Yep.
And if you don't
Oh,
have it,
yep,
I can.
yep, I got it.
Okay.
Because I didn't actually remember having it either.
So on the Saturday event, it's gone to all the town departments, and the town departments are okay with it?
No, because it was holding off pending whether the board was going to pass a policy or not.
So they just may not have enough time to, they may or may not, I don't know.
We can certainly try.
Yeah.
My druthers would be to not pass the policy yet. I don't have anything problem with it. I'd like to just be able to think about it, but approve the policy provided, approve the permit, provided they're sort of signed off by the department heads.
Okay.
But that's just my current thinking. I don't feel super strongly about it, so I could be convinced easily other directions if people had strong feelings about a different course of action for tonight.
Well, I guess I just don't want to rush through something.
Right. That's why I don't want to pass the policy tonight, but I think, see if how easy it is for them to, and it sounds like they have the insurance, like, ask them to try to follow that policy in draft form and get the feedback from the department heads to make sure that they're not doing something else that we're not thinking about.
Sure.
But have the select board approval conditional upon those sort of two things where we can still have more time to make sure we're, and it might even be a test of the policy, like, oh, they tried to follow the policy, but here was the hard part about it. Or
Correct.
here's something that when we got down to it, we didn't think about that we should have asked them for.
Yeah.
I think that makes a great sort of trial run and allows the rec committee to have an event they would like to have.
I mean, I think that works.
So I will make that motion then to approve a one-day permit, pour license, whatever the right word is, for the rec committee for their fall festival, asking them to follow the draft policy as you've outlined, and provided they get, you get positive feedback from department heads.
And that's okay, even though it's not really on the agenda? Just devil's advocate. Are you seconding this?
Mm-hmm. I will
Okay.
second it. Yep.
All right. It's a motion and
I
a second.
will take that risk.
Me too.
Okay,
It is
You
agenda, it's
are
items that have
correct.
come up to
I
us
know.
before.
You are correct.
Yes.
right.
Um,
We've gone off the
Yep,
subject.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right, well.
It is a risk.
Well, we'll take a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And, I mean, that's just one thing we need to be aware of.
Mhm.
When, we start talking about something
Yep.
at length, it should be something on the agenda.
Yep.
Okay. So, when I first saw the email tonight at 5:30, I thought maybe it was this one moving out the date.
Right.
And-
Oh,
But
yeah,
it's
no.
not.
No, it's a totally.
I have
Yeah.
I have no idea what the one tonight
Yeah.
is
Yep.
about.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
start of a
just-
conversation.
Yeah, that just looked like it was an event.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Two
it doesn't, you
Saturdays from
can't
now.
tell, is it
Yeah.
Well, she specifically.
municipal? Is it just a private event?
I think it's up to
Yeah, I think it's
Sandra
up
and
to
Kristen to learn
Sandra.
more and
Yep.
they can come back to
Exactly.
us.
We're
Right.
looking into it.
Yep.
Exactly, but that's what I had thought
Yep.
it was originally.
Yeah, well, we voted on something we've already previously discussed.
Okay,
Um,
all right, let's get back on track, huh?
mhm.
Are we all set with this then? And we'll bring the,
Yep.
we'll bring the policy or policies back
Mhm.
next week. All right, board questions on agendas or liaison updates?
I find you have rail trail stuff up for a couple weeks from now, correct?
I do.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm meeting with Robin Berry this week, and I do have it on for Monday night, provided we're ready.
Right. Well, and I think the Monday night agenda is already looking pretty packed, and so if something gets pushed, something gets pushed.
What was this you were asking about?
The rail trail.
Oh, probably need a good chunk of time. We'll
Yeah,
see
yeah,
if we
yeah.
can do it or not.
Yep,
I have that in my notes too.
yep. I'm done after that.
Okay. I got an update from Lynn because I was not able to make the ZBA meeting last week either. They had a hearing for a Central Street car wash. Notices were not sent out properly, so the hearing was deferred to the next month. 107 Coburn Road was also requesting a home-based contracting permit, which expired, and will now have to go through go before the ZBA in December for a special permit, since the use has had some changes to it since it was previously given to them. And is there, at some point, I am suspecting that the gas station on Route 62 will be coming back to the select board.
You're reading Scott's mind. Are you talking about the green space?
Yes, the green space, but also, they had come to us previously, and Lynn Ryan is a neighbor of the gas station, and she had asked to have arborvitae as a shield to the gas station put up between her property.
That's not a select board decision, though.
Oh, it was at the time. We did, because we were approving something for the gas station, so we put in a stipulation that they needed to put up something to shield their business from the neighbor.
Oh, typically anything like that goes through planning board.
Okay, well, at the time it did go through, go through the select board.
Oh, select board would only have jurisdiction on town-owned property.
But anyway, so if they were to come back, she asked that we please ask them to, the arborvitae either died or they never put them in, but she's asking for
Okay.
this shield to go up between the business and herself.
Okay.
So that's all I've got.
All right, Concom, they're a busy bunch of folks. They're doing their continued monitoring of Highland Ridge. There is an issue with a retaining wall. And the question was asked, how did all of this happen? And it was basically said that there was lack of erosion control. That, again, it's another one of those instances of a policy done with a wink and a smile and a handshake. That when this went up, the agreement was not to clear cut, which would help erosion. But when the original person didn't want to do this anymore and sold it, the person who came in and went, because there was nothing there. So hopefully, lesson learned. We got to get away from the wink and a smile and hope that people do the right things. So they are continuing to monitor that. And then Maddie Van de Booten has started her owl banding on on Friday and Saturday nights. The Sawi, is that how to say it? Sawi owl. It's very tiny, but she's caught 3 of them on Friday night, and she caught 3 of them on Saturday night. So she'll be doing it again. So whether
So we have those little tiny owls in Berlin.
we have those little teeny tiny owls in Berlin. So hopefully weather holds out on Friday and Saturday. I'll be sitting in the woods, Egger Woods. So I just may call you for the drone if I get like lost or scared. With that.
Out of service.
Appreciate that. Can appreciate your continued support. All right, so an item for next week. At the energy meeting a couple weeks ago, it was discussed that the Pole 4 down on South Commons had a rather large electric bill. I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars of electric bill. So no one seems to know why. It has gone up hugely.
I can answer that if that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I went down and there's a giant orange extension cord that is plugged into the pitching machines that are currently not being used.
Okay.
I unplugged it.
Why would you do that?
Because no one's using it, and it's...
Well, why don't you find out, talk to our town administrator and find out.
Well, and there's also,
I would have unplugged it.
yeah, and I would have...
I do.
I mean,
If
you
it's
don't
an- if
really
it's an
have a
easily-
right to
Plugging
do
things
that.
If it's easily reversible,
Well, here's the thing, it has nothing to do with what's plugged in. It's actually, they were estimating the bills from February through September. And then when they take an actual reading, we have to catch up and pay
Okay.
for all of that time. So that's why it was so large.
All right, so, but can we make sure that things aren't plugged in that should not be plugged in, like that
Sure.
giant extension cord in the buildings? I don't know what's plugged in if they use the little...
Well, I mean, that would be
Yeah.
what her
And that-
responsibility day
Right.
to day.
But that's why I want
If
to
you bring it to her attention.
I know that,
you
but
could-
I
She
understand
could
that.
have taken care of it.
But I want to bring this up in open meeting because it's a giant bill that the town is paying that I want people to understand.
Well, it would have saved you from unplugging.
Yeah, you know what? It has been unplugged since the 3rd of October. It is in the same exact position, so if they wanted it, they would have plugged it back in.
I have an
so-
idea. Can I suggest something?
Mhm.
Next time, if that happens, let me know about it and I can address it. And then you can also bring it up as part of your
Okay.
update. And that way we can get on it right
Right.
away.
Please, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
some of these things you do need to, I mean, and the same when someone calls you and asks a question, tell them. Call the town administrator, that will be the fastest way to get something done.
Right.
Mhm.
Because the hardest thing sometimes too is if I don't know in advance what the questions are, I can't do the homework and I may not be able to give you the answer, so that drags it out longer.
Right.
That's-
All right, another item for next week, I'd like to talk about Christmas decorations, use of. Do we put them up, do we not put them up?
What
Isn't
So
Christmas
those-
a
decorations are we-
religious
So
holiday?
those were a collection of Christmas decorations that were sitting on top of 1870. And as, you know, Rec moved some of like the stuff out of the closet upstairs into the cubby hole that you all approved several months ago, there's just a boatload of Christmas decorations. They haven't been used in years. So do we,
Probably since before Victoria came on. When we had that
Probably even-
previous
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we declare
COA
them
person who
surplus and
who
Right.
take them up
had
to
the front,
take it,
remember,
leave it.
at the front of the
Yeah.
1870,
I like that.
all
So-
dressed up.
yeah, so I was gonna go through them, because obviously I don't want Sandra to do it, I don't want to pay for her to do it, that I was literally gonna sit there and like plug them in, and if it worked, I'd like bring a list back and say, well, it worked, and if it didn't work,
She's plugging in the decorations and unplugging the other thing.
yes, I am plugging in the decorations, it turns on, and I
Uh-huh.
am unplugging the decorations. So, you know, again, separation of church and state, I don't know, it's a state building, what goes up, what doesn't, white
Have
lights,
to do
I don't
every
know.
holiday, it's
No,
best to avoid.
I'd almost be fine just taking the boxes over the take it and leave it shed and just letting
Yeah.
them take their
Okay.
shots with them if they're taking a free strand of lights.
I can declare
Some might work and
anything-
some might work. And
yeah,
you have the ability to declare anything surplus.
up to $10,000, unless you think you have
Oh,
more than $10,000.
I don't think it's over
in
I don't
there,
think
so.
then
Do you
we're-
need a list?
I would need a general list of what's in that box. You don't need to like tell me there's like 18 strands of lights if you're like there's several strands of lights
right.
and do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be exact. I just have to make sure it's under 10 grand.
Oh, it's under 10 grand. I mean, it's sad because several years ago when Margaret was here, we did approve money from the 1870 budget to go buy decorations that were put up by maybe 2 town hall managers ago.
No, it was the council on aging person, I forget her name. Holly.
Holly.
That's right.
She went to Sterling. Yeah.
Holly.
I mean, if we want to duke out decorations on other
I know.
town buildings, we can. I just the
We invited,
municipal
remember
offices
we invited the
shouldn't do it here.
businesses in the center of town?
Yeah, to try and do
If they
them.
wanted to participate, but
Yep.
I don't think anybody did.
They didn't. All right. No, I was just because I'm thinking if that space under the stairs, if we can get rid of that, then that gives a little wee bit more storage space
Yeah, which
for
we need.
things. Yep.
This is the kind of stuff, though, you should just call Kristen about.
No, I'm gonna do it in public, so that
Yeah,
the
but we-
town folk can know. Website updates, do you have anything?
She did actually send me an update. She has gotten into the Civics Plus and has been learning how to use it, and has been researching other cities and towns' websites and gathering ideas, and will have something for me soon.
Excellent. Maybe I missed it. Have we received anything on the old flat penny? Because I've driven by a couple times and have seen stuff being moved in.
Oh,
So I don't know what's being moved in. It just kind of like caught my eye.
let me see if I can get an update.
So I
haven't heard
didn't-
anything.
Well, they haven't come for any licensing
And-
yet, so.
Yeah.
And that's just it,
When
yeah.
people have asked me, that's what I'd say.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard anything because they haven't come for any
Right.
licensing.
I've not seen them on the list of building permits, but I don't think the stuff
Right.
they're doing looked building permit worthy. It's sort of preparing.
But
potentially the
licenses
license.
would come through
Right,
us,
but-
Yeah.
Right.
so.
But I just
So-
wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything, that stuff was being, again, I don't know
Okay,
what's being
so-
moved in, but stuff is being moved in. All right, so the energy bill's done, the Christmas decorations, I'll get a list back to Kristen, website, we'll get stuff from Kristen, and we'll find out what's going on with the flat penny. Okay.
Okay. We do have need for an executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Rattlesnake Hill, and will return to open session after, only to adjourn. That's the motion.
I will, second?
No.
I have to,
I think we just do the
And we have-
aye.
And we have to do aye
You have to do
individually.
aye.
So, yeah,
Keith,
Hawkins-
aye.
You have to roll
Hawkins,
call.
aye, yep.
Stone Eye.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We are now in executive session, so everyone gets.
Peace out.